ReZero Season 4 is shaping up to be the best season of ReZero so far, but also the most confusing. Everything we know about the 4 great nations and heroes of the past is a complete lie. Today we're breaking down the anomaly of the Pleiades Watchtower, the mystery of the Sand Dunes, and the hidden truth about the 3 great sages. Let's get into it. First of all, the Pleiades Watchtower isn't just a fortress. It's a massive tower designed for one purpose, making sure Satella, the Witch of Envy, stays sealed inside the sealing stone shrine forever. Also located deep inside the Augria Sand Dune is the tower's first line of defense, a spatial distortion barrier known as Sand Time. The Sand Time acts as an invisible force field that violently bends and twists the spatial fabric of the desert. From a distance, the tower looks completely static. You can walk towards it for days, but the spatial distortion ensures it remains physically unreachable, to the point that even Reinhardt, the current Sword Saint and objectively the most blessed, powerful entity in this world, cannot bypass it. That is how broken this defense system is. Now, there's a way to get past this barrier, but it requires you to exploit a temporal shift during a violent sandstorm, which just dumps you into a flower meadow infested with courtesan bears and other lethal witchbeasts. But let's say you survive this and get inside. The internal structure of the watchtower is another major problem. The floors are explicitly named after the stars of the Pleiades from ancient Greek mythology, starting from the Asterope basement on the 6th floor, all the way up to the Maya zenith of the first one. To even survive inside, challengers have to obey a strict, magically binding contract consisting of 5 rules. You cannot leave without first finishing the trials. You cannot break the trial rules. You cannot disrespect the Tegeta library. And you absolutely cannot damage the physical structure of the tower itself. Now, the 5th rule is a massive loophole. It is legally permissible to destroy the trials, which was initially hidden from the group. Now, speaking of those rules, breaking any of them triggers the tower's ultimate weapon, which brings us to the Star Keeper herself, Sage Shaula. Now, Shaula is remembered by the world as the legendary sage who helped to save humanity 4 centuries ago. The problem is that this is entirely fabricated. Shaula is actually a humanoid witchbeast, crafted through a bizarre collaboration between the Great Sage Flugel and Daphne, the Witch of Gluttony. Now, Daphne, of course, created Shaula's physical flesh, which is why Shaula views the monsters like the Black Serpent and the Centipede Coffin as her literal siblings. Flugel, on the other hand, gave her sentience and bounded her to the tower. So yes, he pretty much left her bound to the tower for over 400 years, which is a bit crazy when you think about it. By the way, Shaula has the profile of a deeply dependent child. She loves Flugel unconditionally, to the point of absolute obsession, even though it is because of him that she had to survive 4 centuries in total isolation by eating the barely edible flesh of witchbeasts. As I said, she is obsessed with him. Now, don't be fooled by her personality. Her combat power is amazing. She possesses a spatial manipulation ability called Dimension Gate, which allows her to transport people across the distorted distances of the sand dunes. But her signature move is a thing called Hell's Snipe. This is a natural ability where she weaponizes pure mana, connecting the physical needles that she carries, which achieves a kind of magical tracking per se. The result is an inescapable high-velocity beam that can vaporize targets from kilometers away. She's so immensely powerful that she outright admits that she can force the legendary first Sword Saint Reid Astrea to actually use both hands in combat 1 out of 10 times, which I mean is more than most. Now, as I mentioned before, she is magically bounded by the rules of the tower. In Arc 6, which is what they're going to cover in Season 4 of ReZero, the Saint Archbishops of Gluttony attack the Watchtower. So when the Sin Archbishops of Gluttony attack the Watchtower, the battle blows massive gaping holes in the building. This of course violated Rule 4, do not damage the tower. Because of that, Shaula was forcibly stripped of her human guise. She underwent a violent transformation into her true form, the Crimson Scorpion. In this state, her affection and human will are completely overwritten by her base programming. She becomes a cold-blooded, instinct-driven killing machine, incapable of holding back. Though by the end of the siege, after being defeated, her body deteriorated, reducing her to the size of a tiny, mindless crimson scorpion that can fit in the palm of your hand. Now, while Shaula was a victim of her own creation, the men who actually built the world's status quo were significantly worse. The history books of Lugunica paint the three great sages, Flugel, Reid Astrea, and Volcanica, as paragons of virtue, who sacrificed everything to seal the Witch of Envy. The first-hand interaction we get in the Pleiades Watchtower completely dismantles this idealized mythos. They were instead three deeply flawed, arrogant, and ruthless individuals. Let's look at the first Sword Saint Reid Astrea, who actually serves as the examiner for the Electra Floor trial. Now this man is actually very crude, he's very lustful, he's basically a thug who fights in a crimson kimono and a purely aesthetic eye patch, by the way. He was able to completely destroy Julius, who couldn't do anything despite utilizing 6 different elemental spirits and superhuman enhanced strength. Reid doesn't even use a real weapon against him, by the way. He famously fights fully armored knights and spirit users with a pair of ordinary wooden chopsticks for some reason. He channels such immense martial authority that the wood doesn't even chip, and he uses them to physically cut through Subaru's authority of greed. By the way, Reid's soul is so overwhelmingly powerful or dense that when the Sin Archbishop tried to consume his memories with the authority of gluttony, Reid just reversed the consumption and hijacked his physical body, though his body couldn't physically handle the sheer weight of the heavenly sword, so he started to physically crack apart during the battle. But the fact remains that Reid is so overwhelmingly powerful that he bent the rules of life, death, and even the authorities through sheer arrogance, which I think is just crazy. Now, with that said, the third pillar of this ancient alliance suffered the exact opposite problem. Let's talk about Volcanica, the Divine Dragon. Historically, Volcanica is the absolute bedrock of Lugunica's geopolitical security. He made a covenant with the 35th king, Forsale Lugunica, to protect the nation from existential threats. But when Emilia finally reaches the Maya floor, the absolute zenith of the tower itself, to take the final trial, she doesn't find the majestic guardian. She finds a dragon suffering from severe cognitive decay. Volcanica is essentially senile at this point. After 400 years of total isolation, his mind has completely deteriorated, leaving him stuck on a broken loop of pre-programmed dialogue. He's totally incapable of holding a dynamic conversation. Having said that, amidst his fragmented ramblings, he drops one of the most fascinating lore bombs in the entire series. He for some reason recognizes the name of Subaru's Earth Dragon, Patresh. For some context, Subaru personally named Patresh after the dog from the 1997 Earth anime, a dog from Flanders, just a year and a half prior. A 400-year-old senile dragon recognizing that highly specific Earth-based name adds another layer to the connection between Subaru and the Great Sage. By the way, before leaving the Maya floor, there's one more massive piece of evidence pointing to this ancient conspiracy. Emilia finds a mysterious monolith near Volcanica's pillar that bears 6 distinct handprints. While we don't have absolute confirmation on all of them, the general consensus points to the ancient vanguard: Flugel, Reid, Forsale, Shaula, Volcanica in a humanoid proxy, and potentially Satella herself. The craziest part? Emilia instinctively recognizes one of the handprints as being completely identical in size and shape to her own hand, triggering a profound sense of déjà vu. This completely erodes the black and white Lugunican mythos, heavily suggesting that the witch Satella was an integrated, cherished member of this vanguard before everything went wrong for some reason. This of course brings us to the Great Flugel. Now Flugel is of course the architect of the Watchtower, and he went out of his way to aggressively scrub his own existence from historical records, shifting all of his legendary credit onto Shaula, who again is just a humanoid witchbeast created by Daphne and Flugel himself. It's also important to note that Flugel's actions are heavily tied to modern Earth. During Arc 6, Shaula casually uses the phrase "OK Google" in conversation. She obviously didn't invent a modern Earth tech phrase, she learned it from her master. By the way, Flugel also planted the gigantic tree that Subaru used to crush the white whale 400 years later. He also gave the witch factor of Sloth to Betelgeuse, setting the stage for the tragedy in Elior Forest. Every single thing that Flugel did feels like he was setting up a chessboard for Subaru to play on centuries later. But the darkest piece of Flugel's puzzle isn't found on some upper balcony of the library. It is buried deep underground. Beneath the Asterope basement lies the Sand Shrine. This underground path is saturated with toxic miasma that induces violent hallucinations and homicidal madness. Down this path, Subaru encountered massive iron doors blocking the way, and according to the lore, there are exactly 7 of these doors, and Subaru was only able to seamlessly bypass the first 3. By the way, if you try to bypass one of the doors without the proper key, the tower's magic teleports you back to the upper floors. To me, this implies that the keys themselves are not physical objects, but rather witch factors, the manifestations of the authorities of sin. Subaru holds the factor of sloth, the factor of greed, and of course his weird connection to the witch of envy through return by death, which of course perfectly aligns with him passing exactly 3 doors. These doors of course block the path to the true core of the Pleiades Watchtower, Floor 0, a deeply classified hidden level designated as Merope. Now, the Greek mythology parallels here are very obvious. In the mythos, the Pleiades is a star cluster representing 7 sisters. Merope was the lost Pleiad. She married a mortal king named Sisyphus, and she hid her face in absolute shame because of it. Also, as punishment for cheating death twice, the gods forced Sisyphus into Hades, where his eternal torture was pushing a massive boulder up a steep hill, only to watch it inevitably roll back down before he reaches the top. That endless cycle of futile progression, agonizing failure, and temporal reset is an exact, flawless metaphor for Natsuki Subaru's authority of return by death, and the sister who hid her face in shame wrapped in shadows matches perfectly with Satella, the Witch of Envy. Flugel built this tower and named its most heavily guarded floor after the exact myth that mirrors Subaru and Satella's tragic dynamic. And this, by the way, isn't just background lore that we're never going to see. During a 2026 talk show, series author Tape Nagatsuki explicitly confirmed that the Merope floor will eventually be a stage for the main story. We are absolutely going back down there. So in conclusion, the Pleiades Watchtower isn't some monument to heroic legends. It is a prison built by deeply flawed people. Flugel sacrificed his own identity, manipulated the distribution of the witch factors, causing mass suffering, and condemned his loyal creation Shaula to centuries of agonizing solitude, just to ensure that his board was set. Reid Astrea is kinda self-explanatory, but he was a crass, violent anomaly who built the modern knights. Volcanica is the world's ultimate protector, but he's also essentially a deteriorating husk. The events of Arc 6 completely changes how one views the world of ReZero. The Gluttony Archbishops were defeated, Shaula was reduced to a mindless insect, Reid's soul was shattered, and Emilia took over administrative control of the tower. But the ultimate mystery, what exactly is waiting behind those final 4 doors on the Merope floor? Will it solve the mystery of the connection between Flugel and Subaru? I guess we'll see. But that's it for the video. If you guys liked it, drop a like. If you're new, subscribe. And also if you guys want to see more ReZero content, let me know in the comment section and I'll, make them. But yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Peace.